This podcast is sponsored by One Gutter Guard, the premium gutter guard that delivers the highest performance, quality, and value to your customers. From its different mesh filters to its unibody construction, One Gutter Guard can be the difference maker in your business. Are you interested in becoming part of the exclusive dealer network? Contact them today at onegutterguard.com or just give them a call. Now back to our show.
What's up, guys? It's Tim with the Gutter Growth Podcast. I got Matthew D. Ryan. He owns Guttersmith, and he also owns Worry Free Bookkeeping. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, how are you, Tim? Thanks for having me.
Good, man. How you doing today?
Good. It was busy. Felt a little bit like a Monday, if I'm
Same.
being honest.
Yeah.
But all the good stuff. All good stuff. It's a busy time of year.
For those who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you own a gutter company, but you also got this special Worry Free Bookkeeping thing that's like pretty awesome.
Yeah. So a dozen or so years ago, I founded a marketing company, and we ran that marketing agency for 10 or 12 years, and I sold it. And a few years before selling it, I launched a bookkeeping company, Worry Free Bookkeeping, because I had clients ask me a lot. They would have financial trouble, or they would just have like managing their money trouble. Whether they had money or didn't have money, it was a problem come tax time or throughout the year, whether it was cash flow management or whether it was applying for a mortgage and needing to spend 3 weeks trying to get all their paperwork in order and being stressed out of their minds trying to get a house, right? I didn't want to experience that. I have too many children to have time for all that. So I got into figuring out how to do bookkeeping and handle finance correctly for our company, and then turn that into a company. And that has been around for 4 or 5 years. And then 2 years ago, I have a different partner in Worry Free Bookkeeping. She came on as the CEO. She runs the day-to-day of that. And then a couple of years ago, I acquired a gutter company and have been launching that with a great general manager in place. And I use Worry Free Bookkeeping and all of the foundation of Worry Free Bookkeeping in terms of managing money, managing cash flow, and making it just not a problem in the gutter company. And in I have other companies too, but in all those companies, I do that. It is finance and marketing. Those are two areas that I would notice the small business owner would have trouble with. You know, like they either can get the leads or do the marketing or not. And then they can either manage the money or not. And these both were make break points. You have some guys and gals who honestly are really good at what they do. They're really good at, let's say in this case, hanging gutter. They're really good at being a plumber. They're really good at that. But the marketing side and the finance side, they didn't really have. So eventually I sold the marketing company and built up Worry Free Bookkeeping, which is mainly what we'll talk about today. But owning a gutter company where I apply the bookkeeping methodology to it, I think is kind of a unique thing. I might be the only dual like gutter company and bookkeeping company owner maybe in the country. I don't know.
Probably. I've never heard of it.
It's a weird mix, but it really works. I'm able to spend personally, I spend about 1 hour each month in the gutter company on the subject of finance. I spend more in the gutter company in general, right? But specifically on finance and bookkeeping, probably an hour a month. There's a whole process. Someone else spends more time than that. Everything is handled. It's handled to me. I manage. I see. It's really cool. It's a really cool system to set up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most, probably everyone does. They're all just managing it out of one account. And a little bit about, you told me that you set up several accounts, and can you kind of tell us about that? Because I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. So when you manage all your money in one bank account, we call that typically bank balance accounting or bank balance money management. You're going to open these days, you're going to open your phone, you're going to look at your balance, and you're going to say, okay, I either have money or I don't. The more you grow, obviously, the more you're going to be spending on material, on staff, on equipment, on insurance. I mean, our insurance just doubled. Our company grew, so our insurance grew. But then that also means that the amount that's in the account grows, but it can be deceiving. you could look at one number in an account and you're like, you have that question, like, how much of this is really mine? So what we do is we create separate bank accounts, a materials account, an operations account, a payroll account, a savings account. All the money goes into one account. And I like to do it every couple of weeks. Some people do it weekly. Some people do it monthly. I think monthly is not often enough, but weekly or every couple of weeks, you sort of, you hit the pause button and you take everything you've made, and you know that your materials, I mean, we all know materials are about a third, right? It's about that just goes right in the materials account. There it is. Whether you're paying for materials on terms with Spectra or whomever, or whether you're paying on a credit card, the money's right there. You're not wondering, oh, did I pay the material bill yet? The money's right there. Then you have your operations account. What's your overhead? What's your, your rent, your cell phone, your internet, and your payroll, and all that, insurance, everything. And then you have your payroll account, and that money goes right in there, which includes your payroll taxes. So then that money's just sitting there. You open up your bank app and you see, I don't know, 4,000 random dollars in your payroll account. Well, guess what? You're not going to touch it because oh yeah, like in 3 weeks, like a payment's going to go out to the IRS. It's going to come right out of that account. Like, it really helps you never get behind. And then you have that reserve account. So we split it apart, and every couple of weeks these transfers are done. But you also look at what was the total that was made, what is the materials, and it kind of goes like a funnel like that. And at the bottom, it's cool. What do you get to keep? What did you make? What did you make, or what did you lose? And that's your profit.
So at all times, you can look at your account and know this is what I actually made. It's not like there's 75 grand in there. I could go buy a machine, but really I only have 15 grand.
100%. And if you're running on profit margins, real net profit margins of anywhere from 15 to 20%, and you see 75 grand in there, you might think you have a lot, but really, if you fulfilled every obligation today that you have, paid every bill that you have, you have 12 grand. You got like 12 grand. I mean, okay, and you know what? 12 grand is not a small amount of money, but if you spend like you have 20, now you're upside down 8 grand. So really knowing what you have. Hey, should we be doing shout outs? I see Michael Wood. A couple people made comments. I'm feeling like,
yeah, man.
How do these people?
What's up, Michael?
No overflow gutter. I saw Grant had said hello. So there's Matthew Broughton. Hey, Matthew. Sorry. I like doing that.
Yeah, guys. By the way, comment grow, and we'll give you 10% off at the summit. Matthew's going to be speaking there. He's going to have a breakout. It's going to teach you about for-profit. Yeah, man, it's going to be good. So you don't want to miss out that. So definitely comment grow, and I will shoot you over the code for 10%.
That's awesome.
If you guys have any questions, go ahead and shoot it over.
Yeah, comment questions, and we're going to wrap. Tim, you and I are going to wrap about this. You're going to ask me. We're going to get going. And if I'm in the middle of a sentence and I see a question pop up here, I'm going to stop and answer that. Or if you see something and you want to interrupt me. So I hope if someone does end up with something, and we'll try to make it so they can get into specifics. But the main idea is to allocate and to really know where all your dollars are and to know what you made or didn't make. I have had periods where maybe a $15,000 or $20,000 check doesn't come in, right? And I always do the 1st to the 15th and the 16th to the end of the month. So if it's the 16th and I'm looking at that 1st to 15th time period and that big check didn't come in, we might have lost money in that period. Like legit, we're upside down. Like, okay, here's what we had. Oh, look at that. We're negative, whatever it is. So to cover that negative, even though I know that check is coming tomorrow, to cover that negative, I'm going to pull from reserves. I'm going to get us to 0. We're going to pay our bills. I'm going to look at the next 2 weeks. I'm going to say, what jobs do I have lined up?
I'm just curious.
Just
curious. What question or what percentage do you recommend people put into reserves, just for like that cushion?
I think it really depends upon their growth goals, right? Like, I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. Some people are close to retirement. They're not going to buy, a 7-8 inch box machine in the next year for $65,000 with tax. They're not doing that. So they shouldn't be putting in reserves for that. They should maybe be stocking away a bunch of reserves for retirement. Someone else might be in growth mode. They want to be able to set aside 3 months of a salary of someone they want to hire that they know is going to add a lot more value than their salary, but they need a ramp up time for that person. So first, I would say know your goals and then have a reserve amount relative to those goals. If I was going to give an answer that was less analytical than that, I think if you have guys on payroll, you should be able to pay your guys for a couple months, even if you're a little upside down during that time. I would never not want to be able to make payroll. So I take a look at what are the bills that I know are going to be paid every month. What is the payroll? And I think you need to have a couple months set aside as a minimum, because then when you have one of those short months, you're never going to be fully short, right? Like if your overhead's 30 grand or something, you're or 20 grand or 10 grand, whatever it is,
Right.
typically you're like 5 grand short. You're not 10, 15, 20 grand short.
It
So
could
if
be
you've
a
got,
cash flow issue.
yeah, exactly. So then if you've got the reserves in there, you can fill the gap, and then the next month you can put it back.
You
So I do recommend having that in there. You sleep better at night. You avoid the freak out, right? The stress kind of freak out. And you should handle it like mentally. There should be like, okay, I got to change something. I got to sell. I got to deliver. I got to fix. I got to hire, whatever it is in that business. But you shouldn't be so stressed out about it that your temper is short and you're yelling at your kids. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to like have balance and go, okay, this happened. I've still got 6 weeks of what they call runway or a couple months of runway. Okay, good. Here's what I'm going to change. I'm going to go talk to this person, close this job, call that GC or roofing company I haven't called in a while. You know, there's always something we can do to improve what's happening. But the closer the death of your business is from not having money to your face, the more frantic we get. So have a couple months sitting there. That could take a year or 2 years to get to the point where you have a couple months sitting there, right? I'm not saying,
Right.
oh, this is month one. We can all do it. It's so easy. No,
But you got to have a plan for it.
Yeah, that's where every couple of weeks you do your money and you take some money out. But if you have a really big period and you could take a lot of cash, pay some debt, put some money in your set asides, pay yourself a little more, but don't take all of it and go buy a brand new F-150. Not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe do it after you've done that 4 times and then go do that, right? Like, what do they call that? Practicing delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people just don't have the clarity. Like we always think about systems with running the business, systems with how the crews operate or the office or the marketing. But I think that pretty much most of us, and even myself, I could have did better at this. You know, we need to have a plan and kind of lock down the financials.
Right. Well, what's not easy is doing that by yourself. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Take you when you're still on the ladder back in the day, even when you got another crew or two, you're still on the ladder, you're selling, you're on the ladder. We're supposed to take you and put you at a computer all day doing bookkeeping and messing with spreadsheets and being all nerdy like I sound. I don't know too many people who are going to be good at that or who are going to do that. But if you can get a system where that part is kind of done for you in the right way, and then you can learn how to review what's been done and go, that looks right, that looks right. Yes, okay. And now you're just making decisions. You're saying, let's put 1,000 in reserves, pay me an extra 1,000. Let's set aside for a Christmas bonus, you know, that kind of stuff. Now you're making decisions with your money when times are good. And that helps you make good decisions with your money when times aren't so good. But in both scenarios, you're looking. And not every period is going to be great. You could have a bad first period of a month and a great second half of a month. And when you're breaking it down, you're like, oh man, I actually lost some money during these last 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks make it up. But you still, you manage in those cycles. It does take discipline, but if you have someone helping you out, like you have virtual assistants, right? It's like having someone do that kind of stuff for you, not so that it's hands off and you're not paying attention to it. You still have to manage it and know how to run that system.
So how does it work? Like, so someone signed up with Worry Free, How does the system work? Do you guys kind of get into their bank accounts, or how does it work? Just
We have different levels depending on what it is the person signs up for. You might have a smaller company, it's 1-2 guys, they're like, just keep our books up to date so we can pull a report and it will accurately show where we stand, and that's all they need. Then you could have someone where they want the full service. They want like what Worry-Free Bookkeeping does for Guttersmith, and actually what it does now for a few, I think we have 3. I think it's 3. I'd have to ask Julia, who's the CEO, and she's been talking to them. Excuse me. I think we got 3 gutter guys aboard, and from I think all of them came from Gutter Growth. They came from you and Grant.
Yep.
And we have a questionnaire that we go through over the phone to learn about them, their goals, their business. Where do they bank? What is their revenue? Or do they have QuickBooks yet? A lot of times their books are out of date, so it could be they're not up to date since January. So step 1 might be, okay, let's get these up to date to now. And then how many bank accounts you have? Okay, go open 3 more bank accounts. Let's nickname them. Good. Let's link them to QuickBooks Online. Okay, good. Then we start implementing that system for them. So there can be a bit of a gradual, thank you, Matthew. There can be, I wasn't talking to myself, by the way, Matthew Frotton just made a comment. Sounds like I was thanking myself. He just made a comment. Appreciate it, man. So we say, okay, how do we get this person into this cadence, right? We want to get them into this habit of saying, oh, it's the 16th. I got to spend a half hour today. Got to review my financials. Good. And they move on. But if everything's packaged up properly, so I won't pretend it happens overnight. I could do it overnight for myself, but it's like in here, right? Like, it's like you could hang gutters with your eyes closed practically, right? It's like
you might have some mess to clean up before it gets completely organized.
Yeah, we want to get them to the baseline and then make it so that they can go forward. Yeah.
Yep.
See, Michael Wood comments, that he's running 4 different accounts for this reason. Super smart. I do recommend having a credit card also. And I even recommend having credit terms with your supplier, with Spectra. You can get credit terms. You can put an app in. Well, and let's talk about that for a second, Tim, like how to use credit the right way, right? I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that by using the Worry-Free Bookkeeping system at Guttersmith, what ends up happening is that we set aside for our expenses throughout the month, even though that bill might not be due till the end of the month. So the money's in the account. So then by the time we pay it, we're actually still setting aside money. So there's always money in the account. So instead of cash flow looking like this and moving this way, we've always got cash in there. And that means if we want to apply to buy a truck, to buy equipment, to get a credit card,
that cash in there is going to help.
The bank, they just look and they go, oh, you guys have, heck, you could just pay for this truck. When you get like something used for 20 grand and you're using this system, you're going to have 20 grand in your account at all times. It's just going to be that way. Your baseline isn't 0. So your 0 is going to be almost like what you need for the month. And you're going to have money going out and money coming in at the same time. And it moves like that. So credit terms are better. Your interest rates are lower, right? Like if you go to get an auto loan from your existing bank, they're going to give you that. You can end up with the bank giving you like better terms, free bank accounts, not charging you fees, giving you interest rate boosters, on giving you like credit card reward boosters and stuff like that.
Because you're keeping a better balance.
Yeah, because you're keeping a better balance, and yet you do need that balance because you're like, okay, over the next month, I got to pay 10, 20, 30, whatever it is. The money's in the account. By the time you pay it, you put the same amount back for the next month. You're kind of always a month ahead.
So you're getting ahead of yourself. So you're always projecting.
Yeah.
How long does it take for people to get caught up with that? Like, say if it's a complete mess, 6 months.
Yeah, I have noticed that it depends on the discipline of the person. I've seen people do it in 2 months, and I've seen people take 6 months. We had one company, not gutter related. They were growing so fast. We're talking like from 3 million to 20 million in like a couple years.
Yeah.
It took us a year and a half with them, but it's because, we started, they had 15 staff, and a year and a half later they have 50. So we're like trying to catch up, because that was kind of an intense, really extreme example. But I think for the average, gutter company owner, if they are disciplined about doing it and they start to expect that they're going to get a report twice a month and that they're not going to really be making any financial decisions beyond buying material, like they're going to look and go, okay, cool. Yeah, you budget for it. Oh, we should talk about that. So you budget for the incidentals, right? Like we look backwards at the last 3 months of your business.
You get an average.
Yeah. What's the average that you spend at Home Depot? What's the average that you spend at this other place? What's your fuel average? What's your insurance average? So then we just average that out, and you're like, cool, we know every 2 weeks it's going to be this much. And we put that right in there automatically on the budget. Now, when you go to pay that credit card, you know your average. It's very rare that average will pop without you knowing it's going to pop. Like if you close a $100,000 job, you know you're going to spend 20, 30 grand on materials.
Oh yeah.
Right? 20 if you're lucky, but somewhere in there, right?
You kind of have those percentages figured out.
Yeah, but then you move the percentage, or the labor will be a bit higher and that kind of stuff. So averaging that out, looking backwards, getting the average, building a model for that business. We do it on a simple spreadsheet, and then we keep a record of it. You're then able to look back and see, what money decisions did I make? And then QuickBooks keeps track of everything that's done. So you can just pull QuickBooks up and see where you're at any given time. You'll always know what you made, what you spent, all that.
What's the average amount of accounts that you would normally set up a gutter company? Say, 1 or 2, 3 trucks.
Like bank accounts?
Yeah.
So you'd have I call it like the income account where the money goes in, your materials account. I like to keep that separate from the operating account, which is all the other bills except payroll, and then a savings account. So 5 bank accounts.
Okay.
And so if you pull up your phone, you're going to know income has not been allocated yet. That money came in, but we made no decisions about it yet. That account's going to drop to about $1,000 twice a month because everything's going to then be moved between the other accounts. So you end up ignoring the biggest number and managing the correct numbers. It's like a mental thing, right? You get into that trap that keeps you a little like thinking you're making more or thinking you're making less. So 5, I think, is the right number.
Because when you look at an account and on your profit account and it's 10 grand versus looking at an account with everything and it's 70 grand, you don't feel like you have as much money.
Yeah, which means you're going to make better financial decisions and you're actually going to have more money. You will end up with more money from having that because you won't spend like you're making 70, you'll spend like you're making 10, and you won't over leverage. You won't take, too much credit out. You won't, you'll do the right stuff, and you'll know where you really stand. So then you can really get to where you want to go, right? You got to really know where you're at to then get to the next level. If you think you're at the next level and you're not there yet, you're not actually going to be able to get to the next level.
Yeah. No,
whatever your goals are, right? Like if you think you can bench 200, which I can't, but if you think you can bench 200, like you're never going to get to 200, right? You got to like know really where you're at and then work from that point.
What percentage of companies do you think are not managing the money correctly? Most of them?
All of them. So for years, like 3-4 years, I had this marketing company and I talked to thousands of business owners during this time, had hundreds of clients, and would regularly meet with people who had big companies, 9-figure, 8-figure, high 7 figures. And yes, also the low or everyday man in the few hundred thousands. Yes. What I noticed was the problem of the person with a company at 30 million a year was pretty similar to the problem of the other person. They just had more people that the problem was spread out across. They still lacked like certainty in the decisions they were making. You'd have a rare person who was really good at getting rock solid data to make a decision, but they were lacking that. And on the financials, man, I think any company below 5 or 10 million, right? Because they're probably not going to have the full-time people they need. Any company below that number, 80, 90% are not, they're kind of, they're ordering stuff,
this is
they're
unique,
money,
This is a unique service because I haven't ever heard of anyone doing this.
I watched for years, and then I would have people ask me, who do I go to for this? And what I noticed is you had like the CPA.
Yep.
And the owner would get a CPA, and they'd be like, why isn't my CPA handling my money? Could maybe they got a new business. They've been in business a few years. They went from working for someone else to growing something up to $1 million a year in revenue or whatever, right? 500,000 in revenue, they get a CPA to save money on taxes. But the CPA doesn't handle the day-to-day. Okay. Or they get like a bookkeeper, but the bookkeeper doesn't really know what the CPA knows. So it doesn't know how to do stuff to make sure you have the best tax advantages and to make sure you don't do it wrong. Then in a really big company, you'd have like a CFO. And the CFO is like the kind of the stuff I was talking about, like cash flow, credit, how having a lot of a good amount of cash on hand helps you get the best credit terms to save the most interest, even on your insurance, your auto insurance, all that kind of stuff, your credit card rates, your auto loans. That's like a CFO. So I saw that for a small business, there was this missing ingredient of a person that could manage the books, help, take these bills, you're going to pay no matter what, put them on auto pay, but make sure they go through, make sure everything's good, manage where the money is going for the owner, like meaning, making sure it goes in the material account and then making sure Spectra gets paid, let's say, or making sure the credit card that the material's on gets paid and so on, and how to set that up. I was like, this seems like something everybody should be doing. And I think that a business owner, if they had time on their hands, they would do it themselves. But then they should be marketing, selling, growing relationships, building their business. So I guess I created it. I had this vision that I should do this, meaning not like a vision, right? But like the vision, the leadership of the vision. I said, I should do this. And if you ask my wife, I think I talked about it for 3 years before I finally did it. And so we're like 4 years later, and the demand is outstripping the supply. You know what I mean? Like, I need bookkeepers. Oh, let's see what Tina says. My account is probably for us when you CEO because many of us are great business owners, but not super supportive. See people really good money, not just kidding. But so happy you're having that's the definition next level. Wow, Tina, thank you. That's a huge compliment. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, next level.
Tina gets it, right? And I know Tina gets it. I've seen Tina's content. I love her content. I've seen what she talks about. I've watched how she takes the time to look at what has occurred, to use that to predict what can occur next. And that's a really important management level skill. It can be difficult to do that if you're on the ladder, right? This is one of the reasons I'm very pro business partner, or I'm very pro having a well-paid general manager who can run all that. And then together you work together and get stuff done. I think it's really important. So, you can see the value that clearly Tina's bringing to that company. Does she own the company? Is it Idaho?
Her husband, she pretty much grew it with them. She blew it up. They're doing, I don't know, 3-4 million a year.
They own it together then. And is it Idaho? Is that where they are? Am I getting that right?
I think it's Idaho Gutters.
I'm going to Idaho. We're going to do a family rafting trip next year, the year after. I'm going to have to look Tina up. Hopefully it's somewhere near there.
She's going to be at the summit. She'll be speaking.
Oh, we'll meet there. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still going to Idaho.
For you guys that just joined, Matthew's going to be speaking at the summit. And also, if you comment GROW, we'll send you a code for 10% off so you can see everyone at the summit. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Depending on how many people are there, I probably won't be able to take questions. Like if you've got 200 people, it's really hard to take questions unless you do a set Q&A. So maybe you'll do like, okay, at the end, there's 15 minutes with a mic at the front or something like that. And it's really cut off. I love taking questions because a lot of what I end up talking about, it will lack the visual or the specificity to exactly where that person is today. Now, when they sign up with us, we're going to find where they at, meet them, and then move them along, right? But what does Michael want to know about Guttersmith?
Well, he's got a company in Florida.
It's a context switch for me to go from Guttersmith to Worry Free. I'm happy to talk about it. I bought Guttersmith a couple years ago. It was not called Guttersmith at the time. I rebranded it. I own the trademark, and I bought Guttersmith.com was available. Bought that, and we've grown it a lot. and it's going really good. We just hired a sales pro. Their first day was today, and they're apprenticing under our general manager who's been doing a lot of the sales. I will say something that I think we all run into if we're trying to grow. Like Michael, I have a feeling, Michael, if you make a comment on how many crews you have, we might be in a similar space, but finding people that then stick around, getting them trained, having them hit the quality level you want, so you're not handling callbacks and warranty, and then keeping the teams, keeping them busy, and then hanging on to them so that someone doesn't either just leave. We had a guy like move back to Vermont with 1 day notice, like we run into this. Read something about it on your LinkedIn, thought it was dealing with management companies. Oh, okay. I haven't been on LinkedIn in a long time. I spend a lot of my time on X these days, which was Twitter, and then Facebook for my family and stuff like that. So I'd have to look at my LinkedIn profile. Guttersmith is specifically a gutter company, not a gutter management company. So Worry-Free Bookkeeping offers these financial management services for gutter companies. I don't if you want gutter company consulting, you should talk to Gutter Growth, and you should be talking to Tim or be signed up for his program. That's where to go.
He's in it, actually.
I've learned he is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've learned so much, watching your content and seeing that. I had wanted to hire a salesperson. Tim Crouch said, you got to put someone in the office on the phones first and then hire your salesperson. He was right. We did that. That advice came from him. It was really great advice. So there's things where when someone's been through it, it's a nuance. You're like, should I put this person on the phones or should I hire the sales pro first? Really great, solid advice for anyone who wants broader help across their company. Oh, that's awesome, Eric. Eric, are you going to be at Gutter Growth? Will you meet us there? For anyone just joining, he's got a 10% off on that. But do you know if he's coming, man?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay, yeah.
Eric, you should come.
Yeah, if you go to Gutter, it's in October. It's in Atlanta, and I'm going to speak there. Going to do a breakout right at that point that you're at, where it's like, okay, how do you scale? How do you get your second rig going? Managing the money correctly is going to really help you to accomplish that. And then getting the resources that you can get at Gutter Growth will really help you accomplish that. But that's awesome. You're right at that pivotal point where it can tip one way or the other.
This isn't Worry-Free, but hold on. Do I adjust a machine to run Galvalume through it? This is off topic. There's some half-round machines that I heard you might need to, but I had the new gen and it didn't, and I never had to adjust it for any KWM machines or any New Tech machines, or even any of the old gutter makers.
Even the junior, Tim? You didn't need to adjust it for
you can't run it in the junior.
I didn't think you could run it at all in the junior, let alone even adjust it. Okay. So it depends on what
the junior is no steel at all.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. We don't have that.
People do it, but it's shorter, so it doesn't have enough rollers to kind of form it right.
Right,
so
right.
Rough on it.
We want to get another 6.7, and then no problem, dude.
Watertight. That's an old machine. No, you wouldn't have to adjust that.
That's like those steel rollers, right?
Yeah.
It'll crush anything.
Yeah.
Form anything. Yeah.
I ran some of those machines I didn't run them for 40 years, but I ran some of them that were 40 years old and printed perfect gutter.
Oh yeah. We had this machine that had been poorly taken care of. When I bought the company, really what I bought was a machine and a month of turnover so I could learn the business. And Dusty joined me day one, moved down from Ohio to join the company. And he looked at our machine and he looked at our trailer and he was like, we got to fix this, and I didn't know any better. So our story is, I was telling him today, I said, man, our humble beginnings. He said, your humble beginnings. I had great equipment in Ohio. That's what he told me today. But, he looked, he's like, listen, trust me, you get a 6.7 combo, get this trailer, let me outfit it this way. We're going to get work done so much faster. And at that point I looked and I just bought it and I said, okay, put it on credit, got the machine. Great decision, and now we're looking at our next, we have more than one machine, but we're looking at another couple right now. We want to get some more profiles for Guttersmith going on. I'd like to be able to run box out here.
What a Euro?
I want to run, ideally, there's that one guy, Dan, who will do the 6, 7, 8 box machine.
Yep. On-site seamless.
Yeah. I would like to get one of those machines. I want to get one of those machines.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
He's making half round. I think he's making a 6 and an 8-inch right now.
Yeah.
It might even be a combo. I can't remember. I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I want to get a box going and do that. We have a coppersmith on our team as well. So when it comes to like 10 years doing copper, his dad taught him, like super solid guy, been with us 2 years now. So we end up being able to do a lot of copper work. You did a lot of copper work too, didn't you?
I did a lot of it. Yeah, I did a lot of it. It ended up being where I would say I was probably doing 60 grand a month in copper.
Wow. Every month.
Every month. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. We haven't done that much. I'd love to. We haven't done that much, but I don't know. It doesn't get, I don't know if there's 60 grand a month in copper going on out here. That's what I wonder.
Are you near the water?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where,
a lot of it is I sold more copper once I got educated on it. So like there was like 15 years that went by that if I went to, a house on the ocean, I would just quote them 7-inch aluminum or 6-inch or whatever, and like it started to be, well, you're on the ocean, you need copper. And then I would just push copper to them. Like if you're on the water, you're on the ocean, this is what you really need, unless you want to replace your gutters every 5, 7, 8 years, because it pits out pretty quick there. So I think a lot of it is just, if you educate those customers on the ocean, they have the money for that, or else they don't live on the ocean.
Right.
I remember one time I did a $110,000 copper job, and I'm like, man, this is a lot of money. I'm thinking from my pockets. I mean, I can never afford 110 grand for gutters.
Yeah,
but I looked up the guy's mortgage, and his mortgage was $180,000 a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like half of his mortgage, So like, if you're out on the ocean, don't underestimate how much money they have, or even that amount of money is maybe not even that much to them.
Right. And that they'd rather get it done right for the next 30 years than redo it 3 times over the next 30 years and maybe spend the same redoing it 3 times over 30 years or whatever. So a bit of that education. It's great advice. It's great advice.
Yep.
I like that.
Let's see, Eric has a question.
Eric says, we're going to kick some butt, get ahead. Oh yeah, the flood and the wind and rain it looks like Eric has work, but it has caused them to have to delay getting jobs done, which means you have the work, but you don't have the money because you haven't done the job yet. So figuring out how to fit that in. Yeah, some weeks and some months are like that. It's definitely the nature of the beast in the gutter business. And in roofing, they run into it.
Eric, also, don't be afraid to advertise more when it's raining, because that's when gutters are going to be top of mind. It slows us down on the production, but sometimes I would kick up my AdWords budget on those days, because that's when all the calls are going to happen, and you don't want your budget to tap out, and then you lose out on so many leads. So sometimes, if it's raining, it sucks that you're not working, but double down on some of the marketing.
Yeah, it's good advice. And then I want to do another plug for the Gutter Summit in case people just dropped in. You're doing 10% off Gutter Summit. You have great speakers lined up. I happen to be one of them, but that's not why I say it. You have some great speakers lined up and great vendors. And then you also have a payment plan. So if someone really wants to come, but they don't want to drop it all at once, you're allowing people to get onto a payment plan. All of this is on guttersummit.com.
Yeah, just go to the checkout and you'll see a button on there for the payment plan. As long as you do it, it's October 9th, 10th, and 11th. So as long as you do it by July 9th, you'll get 4 payments. If you do it after that, then we're going to break it down into 3 payments. And then, eventually we'll do 2 payments.
Okay.
Definitely take advantage of that, especially if you're going to bring people with you. It's an easy way to go ahead and afford it. And the value that we're going to bring at the summit, you're going to make that money back. So as long as you come in there and you execute on everything that you learn, we're definitely going to bring some fire. It's going to be very educational. We are going to make this the most educational summit that there is in the gutter industry.
I'm bringing 2 business partners, Julia and Kathy, and they're coming along. Tina says, I'm moving. Where's Tina moving to? What does she mean?
Is it raining over there?
You're moving from Idaho. Wait, are you moving? Is that what she means?
She's joking.
I wonder what kind of delay this is.
I think she wrote it when we were talking about the weather.
About the weather. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Because I kept saying, I'm going to go to Idaho and go like rafting with the family or whatever. You know, I'm going to
Oh, this is why.
Florida for the money. Oh, I see. There it is. Yeah. Yeah.
We have that copper.
You know what? You should move here. There's a county on the other side of Florida that you can go to. Palm Beach. You go. We'll meet in the middle for lunch. Just don't come where I am. Finally, good. We listened to Q&A. Business is good here on the Cape. After a long Indeed campaign, I found a Reserve Army guy. You know, that's interesting that Christian brings this up. So when I see someone who's Reserve Army, who's prior Marine, who's firefighter, they get my attention. They've gone through training. They've gone through management training. They know how to get shit done. I would love, you know, good for you for obviously for hiring an active duty individual, but also anyone who's a veteran as well, firefighter. I'm like,
how do you find those guys?
Well, he says he found them on Indeed, right? He ran a campaign on Indeed is what Christian said.
But I mean, do you know if there's any way? I don't know. It's something to look into, I think.
Well, okay. So typically in any given city, there will be nonprofits that help veterans or those who have recently gotten out of what they call the public sector and are transitioning to private from, you know, from the military. They'll help them find jobs. So that's one way to specifically target those guys. If you're interested in finding them and training them up, and they want to train up. They might not go looking for a gutter job, but if you talk to one of those nonprofits, you might be able to, you know, tap them on the head, right? Like, hey, come check it out. Come over here. We want you, you know, kind of a thing. We had started to touch on that, which is, I'd say our biggest challenge is just, you know, you have sustaining growth, right? Which has been good. But then also sustaining the number of crews. I'm trying to get to 3 crews. And sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 more steps forward, but then 2 more or 2 forward, 1 back, you know, and you kind of go like this a little bit. We don't really slide backwards too much, but definitely staffing, right? Finding good guys and who are reliable and show up. We pay well. It's not that, but just finding good people. And our culture is good. Kind of have a no a-hole policy. I take deposit. We should talk about this. We should talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I always took deposits, but I know where you're coming from, Matthew, because I absolutely at one point felt that way, especially when I first started the business and I was doing everything. I felt like if I didn't use that as like it was like a sales pitch, like, oh, and I don't take any money until I'm done. But the problem is that sets you up for failure and cash flow issues. And I've never had someone fight me on paying a deposit, to be honest with you. So it's more like a mental block that we personally have.
It's in your own head. I think the deposit should be like 25%. I can see how asking for half the money up front could dissuade a person. I
did 30.
You did 30, but we're in the same range, right? We started at 20 and moved up to 25. Here's the thing. When your material is going to be about 30% of the job, and you get a 25 or 30% deposit and you put that into the account, and then you're always moving your 30% over and you're also getting paid when the job is done, you're never going to have the needing to buy material issue. You're not going to be in a position of not being able to pay for the material. So this is both management advice, it's gutter advice, and it's also worry-free bookkeeping advice. Tina does 50%. She's just balling and making us all look bad. I get it. She should be doing that. Right? So you can do 50. Now, I have a brother that owns a roofing company, 0 deposits, unless it's a large commercial job. Anything residential, sign, deliver, pay at the end. I think he's a moron for doing it. I tell him all the time because he's my brother, so I can. And he tells me, no, you're a moron. This works. And, you know, we argue about it in a fun way. We love each other. But I'm like, dude, cash flow, you know, you got to have the cash flow to sustain you. And he makes it work. But sometimes he'll have a week where the cash flow sucks and he's got all these open jobs. And I'm like, you know, if you had deposits, you know, is what I like to say to him.
Another thing, Matthew, I like to do it in a CRM like Jobber where the credit card gets saved. So when they're doing that deposit, instead of chasing them down for 5 days or 2 weeks, or instead of spending 6 hours a week chasing 10 customers for checks, you could just hit that button and collect it right away. So it saves, you could invoice it, collect it, and it's done. And you're saving them a step because you're just making them work more to pay you, and it just takes away the work from them. People are also getting accustomed to that. So I've never been fought on that either. But I didn't actually do that in the gutter company. I started that with my Christmas lights business last year, and it was a game changer. We didn't even have to think about it.
So what did you tell the customer when you were taking the deposit about how you were going to run their card once you were done or something? Oh, did I lose you, man? I think I am now live without Tim. I think I lost him. His picture went away. I imagine he's going to jump back on here any second. He and I were, if he doesn't within a minute or two, I'll hop off. But he was talking about, getting a card for a 25% deposit. There you are. So getting a card for a 25% deposit, or 30 or 50 if you're Tina, do you tell the customer when the job's done, we automatically run your card for the rest? You just set the expectation. Do you put it in writing? We have our average to collect is 4 days. So we get all money within 4 days.
I would put it in writing at the least,
Yeah, with gutters, if there's anyone else who's doing that, I want to know. I have some reasons that I can think of around, hey, you were supposed to wrap the downspout around to the front and you didn't, but you took the money. Like, I can think of little things that could happen on a job. Yeah, there you go. I mean, Matthew, set that expectation. You can start with deposits. If you want, you can go full bore like Tim is saying, but if you're going to run the card automatically, you're really going to want to make sure the job was done completely correctly. Because I feel like someone would see something not according to what they said. Like, what if you guys forget to put topper on? I don't know, right? They do the whole job. They forget to put the topper on for some reason, or they make a mistake. They leave a piece of trash, right? And so the customer, you go to contact them and they say, oh, your guys left, half a downspout over here. Thank you so much. You show back up and get it and you get your check. That's an opportunity for a 5-star review. But taking the money out that day before you've picked that trash up, that gets hairy. What do you think, Tim? Like, for the person maybe leaving a not so positive review because they think you're just, I don't know. I'm hesitant.
I never had a problem with it. And I've also personally been on the other end of it. And there's so many services that I've done, and that's just how it's done. So I think it's expectation. You could tell them, there's nothing wrong with telling people the process. What people get pissed off about is breaking expectations, or if they have another expectation and it doesn't go the way that they anticipated. But like, even when I'm doing quotes, I would give a 2 to 3 hour window. I didn't have people getting pissed off because you're not here at 1 o'clock. They already know that I'm not going to be there on the dot. I just told you. And so, like, if you give them that expectation, and they're just going to go with it. But I had 108 customers that I did that to, and not one complaint. But I do suggest putting it in your jargon, at the bottom of the estimate.
Right. Like, your card will be saved when the job is complete. It'll automatically be run. You authorize us to run it when the job is complete. Huh? Well, if anyone else ends up doing that, I'd love to know. Tim, I'm running out of time. We're at that 48-minute mark. Yep. Can we start to do the wrap-up process? I can feel my daughter getting ready my 4-year-old bust into my office and interrupt all of us. So
that's all good. Yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on here. I'm excited to see you at the summit. You guys that have just dropped on at the end, Matthew's going to be speaking there. It's going to be fire, educational, and we appreciate him coming and having you on here in this live.
Tina brings up a great point on what we were talking about there. Just, always respond to the issue quickly, and customers understand that if they knew they were going to pay and they paid.
We're humans. People know we're humans. Everybody's imperfect, and it's definitely, if you ignore things, that's what's going to piss people off. If there's a problem, unless you just did a complete hack job, I don't recommend that. But I mean, if you left something on the ground, it might have been an oversight, or just go back and correct it.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Cool,
Thank
man.
you for having me on, Tim. I appreciate it. I was worried we weren't going to have anything to talk about, but my wife would roll her eyes at that statement because she knows I'm a talker.
Good deal, man.
It, man. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. And I'll see everyone at the summit.
Take care, guys.